One of the things that we've not understood well, I say we, I mean the white evangelical church, we're the 800-pound gorilla in the American room when it comes to religious ideology. Um, Not only have we been the large group in the room for a long time, we also have the most influence among all the religious groups. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. This is one of those ways in which my Muslim and Jewish friends have helped teach me how to engage better because they've always been a minority in the US. And when you're a minority in the US, you understand how to engage others who disagree with you better than if you're the majority. If you're the majority, the assumption is everybody agrees with you, or at least you can automatically win. And one of the things we're seeing right now, Christians in America are not persecuted. You'll hear people say, oh, the Christian church in America is being persecuted. That's baloney. That's just not true. Maybe at times we're seeing marginalization. Ed Stetzer, who I used to work for, he likes to say, look, the evangelical church is losing the home field advantage. That's what's happening, right? We had some basic ideological beliefs in evangelicalism that were sort of assumed culturally that are no longer assumed. And what happens is we don't know how to respond when there's a large or sizable group around us who disagrees with us, and they're winning sort of authority and influence because we've always had authority and influence with our beliefs. And so understanding how to engage people with grace and be winsome and recognize that we may not win every argument, but our orthopraxy matters, that the way we respond to losing arguments, the way we respond to people who disagree with us says as much about our faith as the content of our words. Jewish and our Jewish and Muslim friends have a lot to be able to help show us how to engage, folks in that regard. When it comes to college leaders helping train and develop their students, I think first what I just talked about really matters because often college kids come from environments where they're the majority. They go sometimes Christian school or at least Christian clubs at their public schools, and then they're in church together with their youth group, and that's what their friends look like. And then they come into this more secular environment where evangelical Christian belief is probably a significant minority. And what can often happen is one of two things. They recognize we're the minority, and so either they get angry and combative because they feel insecure and unsure how to engage, or they acquiesce because that's easier than fighting all the time, right? And so then, and we hear this all the time, and you're just going to go off to university and become liberal. What we don't understand is the sociological element that's coming into play. People are trying to survive, and they're trying to survive in a context where they're the minority, and they want to be, they want to have friends, they want to be accepted. And so it's not so much that the argument may be winning them over, even if they don't recognize this. It may be that sociologically, the desire to be one with the community is winning over. So I would say to pastors who are leading in a college context, how do we help equip college students to be a prophetic minority who don't get angry when people disagree with us, but also are convictional enough that we don't acquiesce either in an effort to fit in. And of course, part of that needs to be authentic Christian community where, other believers can rally around them and we can be together and not, my experience with so much Christian community on college campuses is that we're just sort of weird and detached from everybody else. You know what I mean? Like it's a small group of just strange folks who sort of detach themselves from the broader community. To me, Jeremiah 29 is probably the best argument for how we ought to engage in a culture that's foreign to our belief system. You've got the exiles who have been taken. This is the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. This is Daniel. This is this group of exiles who have been exiled out of Jerusalem. They're in Babylon. The false prophets are telling them you're going to go home in 2 years or less. And in Jeremiah 29, God says, no, 70 years you're going to be in captivity, and then I will return you to your homeland. In other words, he's saying to all these adult members of the Jewish community, you're all going to die in captivity. None of you are going to get to see your homeland again. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to plant gardens, and I want you to give your kids in marriage, and I want you to help them raise their kids, and I want you to give them their kids in marriage. And I want you to, in other words, embed yourself in the community and be salt and light in the community, not angry. People say, well, Mike, let's look at how bad the culture is around us. Well, baloney, it's not worse than Babylon. It's not worse than the Assyrian Empire, where they skinned their enemies alive, where they would round up the children in the middle of the city and kill all the children when they conquered a town to strike fear in the hearts of the adults. That's grotesque sort of engagement. And he says to them, embed yourself in the community. And then what? Verse 7 says, seek the shalom of the city. for when it prospers, you will prosper. And shalom is not just peace, right? Shalom is bigger than that. It's the holistic blessing of God on a people and a place. So I would say teach college students, train college students to be a prophetic minority who seek the shalom of the community where they're at. And shalom means sharing your faith, but it also means advocating for racial equity. It means arguing for orphan care and pushing back against sex trafficking, not because those are cool things to do, but because when King Jesus rules and reigns in a place, all people are equal. Nobody's treated as a commodity. Everybody has a family, right? This is what it looks like when the kingdom of God comes to rule and reign in a place. And so this is what I would encourage. Don't teach your kids to be confrontational combative. Don't teach your kids to feel like we're under attack. Teach your kids to love those who disagree with them, to be authentic friends and in relationship with those who disagree with them, and to engage them as a prophetic minority, speaking to the culture as one who loves and respects it, but desires to seek the shalom of your community.